I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Trustee Blowers.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
First on the agenda is public participation.
You have.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'll take that. And if you would stand at the podium, let us know your name and address. And where are we at?
Yes.
3 minutes for speaking?
3 minutes.
3 minutes for speaking.
This is about the new
Name first. Yes, sir.
John Garcia.
Okay.
This is about the new noise ordinance as far as residential. I don't know if the Township trustees and the police department are on the same page, what it means.
I guess what's your question about?
What new noise ordinance?
You have a noise ordinance?
Not in the unincorporated area of Ross Township, no. That's all of Ross Township.
What?
That's all unincorporated area of Ross Township is the complete township. There's no noise ordinance.
Are you sure about that?
100%.
You didn't seem to think so.
We do have a noise ordinance,
Pertaining to what?
loud music and coming out of, in residential areas,
And I looked at the.
For the ORC or?
township resolution, township ordinance.
Okay, I stand corrected. I apologize.
So there's like, standard noise ordinance, something over 80 decibels. Or splitter, beating a hammer. Issues with that, and one of the police officers got called out, and he said he can't do nothing about it because he don't know exactly what the trustees mean by that. Noise ordinance.
When did we get called?
It's been a while.
Okay, I can look into that, but yeah, we definitely have a noise ordinance that gives specific times and the distance it has to be from the house that we have to be able to.
I don't understand what the trustees actually want to do about it.
I will
Somebody
make,
told me.
I will correct that and make sure everybody understands what our noise ordinance is and how it should be handled and stuff.
That's all I got.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else? Procedural actions. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-080 to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the May 4th, 2023 regular meeting, the May 18th, 2023 work session, and the May 25th, 2023 special meeting. I need a second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-081 to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2023 regular meeting. Need a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-082 to approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2023 work session. I need a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-083 to approve the minutes of the May 25th, 2023 special meeting. Need a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-084 to nominate and appoint John Fisher to the position of Vice President of the Board of Trustees for 2023. Need a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Township business, old business. First is Verizon cell phone tower counter offer.
I did get in contact with a Denise Har from Verizon, who was going to send a modified proposal for the cell tower. And we can go from that point. She didn't give me any details over the phone, but it would all be in that email, and we can proceed with that if we want or not. So it's moving.
Anything else from the board? Old business? I have none.
No.
New business, purpose. The position of trustee of Ross Township is currently vacant and became vacant on June 1st, 2023. This resolution appoints a trustee to the vacant office. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023- 27, appointing Russell A. McGurran to fill the vacancy in the office of the member of the Board of Township Trustees for Ross Township, created by the resignation of Jennifer Pattison for the unexpired term or until a successor is elected as prescribed by law. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Lauer,
Yes. Any further new business from the board?
No.
Moving on to department reports, fiscal officer.
I have for you to review and to sign certifications of purchase orders issued and checks written since the last meeting. I also have for you to review management reports for the month of May. Initially, there is a revenue summary and there is a fund summary. Please keep in mind for the purpose of these reports, we are 43% through the year, so that might help you with the year-to-date percentages. There's also an appropriation status report as of May 31st, 2023. And then I have for you to review and to sign the bank reconciliation for the month of May, and that's hot off the presses. And then I also have for President Blower to sign and for Trustee Fisher to review the April bank credit card attestation. I have not received former Trustee Patterson's card yet, but she said she would bring it for me to destroy likely tomorrow. And with the adoption of the appointment of a new trustee, I'll be working with Mr. McGurran to get a credit card and all the other fun things for him. Now, also, we have been subscribing to the Lions Club Flags Across Ross, and we did a 2-year renewal last time. And I was notified that our subscription has expired, and I just need a verbal from the two of you, whether you're content to continue to move on with that. I believe we do 4 across and 3 on School Road.
I am, absolutely. I think it's a great touch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me also.
I will go ahead and renew that subscription. And then in a few minutes for your consideration, there will be a resolution to receipt the funds received from Gov Deals, specifically the police department's funds, to amend their revenue budget and to amend appropriations so they can spend it. The other 3 departments, admin, road, and fire, have elected to just allow that to go towards their end of year carryover. So we don't have to do anything. So the resolution that you have in front of you will be to amend the certificate of funds available for revenue and then appropriations for the expense side. And once that's done, I'll submit that to the Butler County Budget Commission. I believe that's all I have for you all this evening. If you have any questions about any of the above.
I do not.
I have none.
Do you want to make that?
In order to financially allow the receipt of funds received from the sale of items on Gov Deals, online auction funds must be added to the police department's 2023 financial budget. This resolution adds those funds. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-028, amending the revenue in a fund and requesting an amended certificate of estimated resources from the Butler County Auditor. Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes. Purpose, approve to pay the bills. Move for the adoption of motion 23-085 to pay the bills as presented through the fiscal officer's certificate of purchase orders. Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes.
Thank you.
Administrator. Lori?
Good evening. Tonight, administration has 2 resolutions for your consideration. The first has to do with 2 nuisance properties, both with excessive vegetation, one on Lark Street and one on Wren. And the second resolution pertains to the police department levy.
Okay, move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-029, declaring a nuisance for excessive vegetation at 4016 Lark Street and 2188 Wrench Avenue. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes. In an effort to keep the department fully self-sufficient, discussion regarding the need to renew the current 3.75 mil levy and add an additional 1.5 of new levy in the police department is determined to be necessary. The board requests the Butler County prosecutor prepare the following resolution, which begins the process of placing the renewal levy on the November general election ballot. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-030, declaring the necessity for levy of a tax. I need a second.
And this is just for the necessity.
Well, if you second it, then you can have the discussion about whether you want it to be continuous.
Very good.
5 years.
So I would second that.
So now you would have the discussion about which version you want to approve.
Okay, discussion.
When I look at this, between the permanent and the renewal, I'm still very much in favor of the permanent. And I think when it comes down to, recruitment and retention of officers, I think it helps these guys within the department to be able to recruit and to retain. I think everybody that I talked to in the community over the last couple of weeks, it was kind of unanimous around permanent. So I think the voice of people that I talked to was in line with that to be permanent. So my recommendation would to be a permanent levy.
I, on the other hand, am not in favor of the permanent. And I stated when we spoke about this last meeting work session, and I too also spoke to some people around the community and asked what their thoughts were. And they like the option of being able to visit every 5 years. So, and I think the taxpayer likes the opportunity to say yay or nay versus having to wait a 10-year span or plus. So I'm against it being a permanent levy. So I'm assuming since we are 1-1, we will have to table this until Mr. McGurn is sworn in later in the month and revisit. Am I correct?
You currently have a motion and a second. Since you're not in agreement on the time frame, I would say that the motion dies unless if you want to withdraw your second, and that way the motion will die.
Okay, I withdraw my second.
So we'll withdraw that. And the motion is dead. And now normally we're trying to stay away from doing legislative type business at work sessions, but we've also stated that we reserve the right to do so. So when
Absolutely.
you have Mr. McGurran seated and sworn in, you guys can have a more in-depth discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sounds good.
But to meet the time frame to have this on the November ballot,
Right.
It
We
will
would
need to
have
be.
to have a decision mid-June so that we have time to do the next set of resolutions and get responses back from the
you
prosecutor.
can always call a special meeting if necessary.
If necessary.
Okay. Good.
Next, I would like to report that Ross Township has been invited to participate in the Hamilton County Parks initiative to have a plan for the West Region Blueway and Trail System. They're looking to better utilize the Great Miami River, and since we're their northern boundary, they're including us in their study area. I think that's wonderful. They're looking for 4 to 5 new areas to have kayak and canoe places to utilize the river and to work on the trail system, the multi-use trail system along the Great Miami River. So I just wanted to make the trustees aware that Ross Township is included in the master plan study, and I'll keep you apprised as to what's going on with that process. I'd also want to make you aware that the Ross Township, the proposed updated land use plan is on the agenda for the Butler County Planning Commission's June 13th meeting. They will discuss it. I don't know if it will actually be approved then. They might have some further questions. Our consultant, Wendy Moeller, that helped guide, she didn't guide this plan, but she was our consultant for the process, is going to be present, and so will I. Today is the last day for people to submit their requests to be considered to participate in the two committees that the board is forming, the Public Safety and the Fiscal Oversight Committees. I'll forward all of those candidates to you tomorrow for review. My recommendation would be at the end of the next work session, you go into executive session to discuss those candidates. And finally is a nuisances update in your packet. And I would like to comment specifically on 2231 Robin. It has experienced 2 fires within the past few months. I'm working with the Butler County Prosecutor's Office for the process to get the remaining structure on the property demolished and removed. Hopefully at your July, the first meeting in July, you'll have a resolution the board will give the prosecutor's office the authority to go through the court system for that process. And that's all administration has, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Lori. I have
No questions.
Anything?
No questions. No.
Okay, we'll move on to the fire department, Assistant Chief Johns.
We have one item to bring to the board for consideration, and that's the hiring of 3 part-time firefighters and transition of 1 career firefighter to part-time.
Purpose, approve the hiring of Paul Peters and Kenneth Russ to the position of part-time firefighter medic, and Jeremy
August.
to the position of part-time firefighter EMT, and approval of transition to part-time status for firefighter EMT Jared Cooper. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-086 to approve the hiring of Paul Peters, Kenneth Russ, to the position of part-time firefighter medic at the rate of $19 per hour, and Jeremy Bogus to the position of part-time firefighter EMT at the rate of $17.50 per hour, effective June 12th, 2023, the transition of Jared Cooper to the position of part-time firefighter EMT at a rate of $17.50 per hour. These actions are in compliance with the current staffing level and pay summary resolution. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes.
I provided the board the monthly report for May. Made 87 EMS calls, 34 fire calls, total 121. We also received mutual aid 8 times in the month of May. I also provided you with a letter of commendation from Chief Miller to Lieutenant Houston, firefighter Simon, and firefighter Agustin. I'd like to read the letter for the public to hear, because I think it's important that they hear this. On the afternoon of February 16th, 2023, Ross EMS was requested for a person having difficulty speaking between breaths. The patient stated that he had very painful stabbing feeling in the center of his chest that did not radiate anywhere. The patient stated that he had taken aspirin per dispatcher's advice. The patient said he would never call 911 unless it was absolutely necessary. The patient was assisted to stand and walk 3 or 4 steps to the stretcher. 12 lead EKG showed sinus arrhythmia with right bundle branch block. Oxygen was applied. Patient's skin was mottled and diaphoretic, and stated that he had a 15 out of 10 chest pain. After IV was placed, the patient took a deep breath and went unconscious. 12 lead showed ventricular fibrillation. After precordial thump, pads were applied to the patient's chest and a single defibrillation was performed. After a single shock, the 12 lead showed sinus bradycardia that preceded a sinus arrhythmia with a STEMI, which is a myocardial infarction. 12 lead was transmitted as well as telemetry call placed. The crew was ordered to transport the patient directly to the cath lab. And he was released from the hospital, I believe, a week or so later. And he actually came down to the firehouse to thank the crew that took him in the hospital. So job well done for these guys.
Absolutely.
The other item on here is update on the new medic unit. Keeps getting pushed back. In conversation with the sales rep last week, it's been pushed back till spring now of 24. They keep giving us different reasons. They said the design was complex, which it's not complex. It's the same one that they built for us before, but now they're saying it's spring of 24 that we'll receive it.
We still have Fairfields in you?
No, that was, we had that for a couple of days while one was getting serviced.
Okay.
So we have both our units.
That was current staffing.
Staffing is good. The schedule looks really good. It's full. So
Awesome.
well,
Yeah, great. Yeah, and you guys do a great job all the time, but
thank you.
I mean, to read this letter, how can that not give you chills? And you know, you guys do a lot of great things, but it can't get any more great than that.
Appreciate it.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Particular run, Kettering Hamilton also recognized it. And when we do have STEMI alerts, we send EKGs to the hospital, but I believe the balloon time for this gentleman was 12 minutes. And that's pretty much unheard of. So
Yeah.
it was a well job by everybody.
Absolutely. Well done.
Well, that's all I have.
On the squad, and Chief Miller, you'll probably answer this. Is the manufacturer sitting on our money, or is that due upon receipt of the unit?
The nice thing about this whole thing is when we signed a contract in September of 2021, we're locked in.
Okay.
And the excuse they gave me, if you ever been to Van Wert, it's a very industrialized city. And when COVID hit, they couldn't get chassis. They laid a lot of people off. And now they're getting the chassis in, and now their employment numbers are down, and they're getting new workforce coming in. In a way, it was explained to me that they wanted this workforce to get experience on building, you can call them cookie cutter squads that private ambulances have until they get some experience, until ours gets online. That's what they're telling me. We talked with the owner of PennCare, who's the rep that sold us the squad. He's kind of fighting with Braun, said, listen, you got units that were ordered after ours, but yet they're before us in production. So it's kind of a good thing because we're still going to get one. We're still locked in the price. I feel bad for Julie because if it does carry over into 24, then she's got to mess with that PO. But it also extends our apparatus replacement schedule out 2 years for this medic unit. So, and if something does happen to one of our medic units, we can rely on Fairfield Township as a reserve unit. So.
We may have to, I did a little discussion with UAN, and I can keep a 22 PO open into 24. That's not a problem. It's just that money eats up your encumbered budget.
Yep.
So it may make more sense to release that at the end of this year and create, but I want to have another conversation with them to make sure. I still want to tie up. If that's the case, then we'll have to budget for it, but we're locked in at that price from 20.
And I expect to get another answer, another call back from PennCare within the next few months and see if they made any headway. But that's what they're telling us. So.
Anything else from the fire department?
That's all.
Thank you, sir. Road department, Paul Bullock.
I just got a couple of paving updates. They are doing patchwork in Hanover Township right now. We're next. So in the next coming weeks, they will be out on Smith Road patching, then New London, Morgan Ross. Don't have a schedule beyond that. But I mean, the next step, they'll come out and mill it and then they'll pave it. But the other thing is in the next few weeks, I'm going to send the board my recommendations for next year's paving. The county wants that turned in by August 1st. So you'll have time to look at it and have any questions we can go over it. But I'll be sending you that in a couple weeks. That's all I got to know.
Know anything about the progress in Cincinnati Brookville? How much longer till that's opened up?
The what?
How much longer till Cincinnati Brookville's opened up? You stopped in?
I do not. It's a contractor through ODOT, so I don't have any connection that's gonna say, tell me anything, other than drive out there and look at it. But,
Okay.
and we've been mowing on this side of the township, so we haven't been out there.
Do you know what they're doing on the Ross Township side of Morgan Ross? That's Cincinnati Brookville at the intersections. They're all out in that field making little mounds. That's,
I've been told that has been made into like somewhat of a wetlands, to save some species that were crawling around in that wet hole that's been there forever. I don't have, that's not official, but that's what I've.
they're on it. There was quite a few pickup trucks out there on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And people out in that field. It drew curiosity of what they were doing.
Yeah.
All right, Police Department, Chief Burton.
We responded to 521 calls for service for the month of May, had 11 auto accidents, wrote 33 citations, 26 warnings, arrested 7 adults, 2 juveniles, took 2 burglary reports, 2 B&E reports, had 1 overdose, 6 emotionally disturbed person calls, had 3 arrests for warrants, 4 shots fired, 1 OBI, did 97 business checks, 30 vacation checks, and took 35 incident reports for the month. Does anybody have any questions about the stats?
Every once in a while, the shots fired pop up. Is that basically a noise complaint?
I mean, it just depends on how they're called in. Some people, I don't think are truly understand what the ORC says about discharging firearms within the township limits.
Okay.
I would have to look further to get a better answer for you, but I don't know off the top of my head. It could be a noise complaint or something like that. I don't know.
Okay, I have no further questions on the calls for the month.
We're almost done with the hiring process for 2 new full-time people to replace Officer Brill and Alex, who recently left as well, Madison Stopel and Ricky Chapman. Ricky has completed everything. He graduated from UC Claremont's Police Academy. He's already taken the state test and the PT test, so that is not an issue. And Sergeant Rogers is finishing up his background. Madison has already passed her PT test, has her state test coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I don't anticipate any problems. She's already done her psychological. Tomorrow she has her CBSA, and so far it's been there hasn't been any issues in her background, so I don't see any issues moving forward with her. Officer Hale has been recognized by the sheriff's office. He was supposed to be scheduled to be recognized formally on the 31st, but that got postponed. So now it'll be on June 7th. So I thought that was pretty impressive. They're recognizing him for his assistance on the homicide that they had on Chapel Road. The Cones with the Cop event that we just had last Friday evening, I think was a huge success. Officer Brickles and Little did a fantastic job putting that whole thing together, and want to thank Flubs, Jollies, and Kona Ice for being involved with that. It was a great night. The weather was fantastic, and we had a very good turnout. The Ross Township Police Department was nominated by an anonymous person to the Faith and Friends radio station. I thought that was great. They came here and gave us donuts, which all cops enjoy donuts, but they came here, gave us a certificate and everything. So it was very appreciative that somebody recognized the work that we've done, and I thought that was very nice. Just adding something, we just finalized the date for the Fish with the Cop event. It'll be on August 26th. We have flyers here that if people are interested in picking up a flyer, or they can go on the Ross Township Facebook page or the Ross Township website, and they can download the flyer and get it submitted to us. And finally, we've had a discussion about this before. I've had 2 officers that would like me to continue to hold their commission. One of them worked for Butler County Sheriff's Office and is no longer in law enforcement, but he left there in good standings. He now works for Norris Tactical. And the other one worked for Springfield Township. And once again, also decided that he doesn't want to be in law enforcement anymore, but wants to provide training for our department, and they are very well skilled in that. They're not going to be wearing our uniform. They're not going to be working the road and everything. But we discussed this before about, can I just hire them on auxiliary where they aren't paid, not wearing our uniform? They're just going to provide training for our agency. In lieu of, I will do a thorough background on them and I will present that to the board to make sure that there is no issues with them. But to do the rest of the hiring process, a medical, a psychological, and a polygraph would cost about $1,000 per officer. And if they're not wearing our uniform and they're not out there representing our department in the community, with that being said, if later on down the road they decide they wanted to work for us and I would hire them on full-time, then I would finish the rest of the hiring process. But in the meantime, I would like just the opportunity to hold their commission and bring them on auxiliary, pending the passing of their background, like I said.
Will they have a Ross Township ID?
We can give them a Ross Township ID. I mean,
The question, I'm asking you the question,
Right,
yes or no, are you giving them
I
an
mean, I
ID?
was planning on it, but I mean, if that is a sticking point about whether they have our ID or not, I mean, I don't have to give them an ID, but I was planning on it.
Okay, well, if you plan on that, I'm not in favor of bypassing all of it. Again, we emailed back and forth when you first brought this up last month, and my concern is the away from the department and the off-duty carry. And your statement to me was they have the right to carry under the Ohio State legislation?
Correct, it's a constitutional carry, yeah.
But I think we can agree and all police officers have the opportunity to stop a crime in progress. And if for some reason that officer has to discharge his weapon, I don't believe he's going to, with the prosecutor or anybody else, he's going to fall back and say, well, I'm carrying it under the state of Ohio. He's going to identify himself as an auxiliary police officer. If they can produce a physical from their family doctor in the last year, we can forego that part. But if that's still the case, well, they'll have the Ross Township, excuse me, the Ross Township ID and represent Ross Township. I believe the other two must still be put in place to protect the township and the police department.
So if I don't give them an ID, would you be okay?
I'm undecided right now. I'd like to see where Trustee Fisher sits right now, and I'll give you my answer in a
Yeah,
minute.
I think the first question would be, just like the standard of hiring. I assume that there's not a difference in hiring procedures for auxiliary. Do we have, but I don't want to, the only thing that troubles me is if we're going to hire somebody outside of the normal process that we do. There's always special situations. And I'm open to that, but maybe I would want to get a little bit more familiar with like the hiring procedure and why do we need to make a different hiring procedure for auxiliary officers? I just want to keep, I would want to keep it as standard as I could.
And I understand that. I mean, so if I was on an auxiliary that was going to be out here working the road or riding in our cruisers or anything like that, then I would put them through the entire process. But all they're doing is really doing firearms training for us. That's all they're doing for us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their area of expertise and help with the Norris tactical with our facility back there. I mean, training us and doing that. That's all they are doing for us. So,
They're going to be on our payroll.
I mean, they won't be paid. They're auxiliary, so they don't get
For training,
compensated.
They're not going to get
They
compensated.
will not
for
be
training?
compensated at all. No.
So they wouldn't be considered employees of the department.
They would, but that would be me part of, and they have to continue to do their CPT hours, which is the continued professional training. So they have to do that. They have to stay in compliance with OPATA and all that so that we can hold their commission. But all they are doing is just providing training for us.
Okay.
Are they being sworn in and one of us trustees are signing their paperwork to go to class?
Correct. Yes.
Then I think I've made my decision. We have to stick with the format you've set in place for full-time and part-time and stick with the psychological and polygraph, again, to protect the township and the police department.
And you're thinking that's about $1,000 per
Per person, so that's
person.
$2,000.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for a $2,000 investment in them, you know, I kind of see that as hedging the risk if something really out of the ordinary happens. You know, in the big scheme of things, maybe a couple $1,000 is worth not hiring somebody under the same standards as we usually do. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
Okay. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Chief. See where we're. General business announcements, none from the administration, anything from the board.
No.
Correspondence, nothing from the administration, anything from the board.
No.
Topics for the next work session, short-term topics, administration, building and police station roof, building use policy, education expense reimbursement policy, HR audit, any additional from the board.
One thing to consider, as more of these nuisance requests come in with lawns, I was thinking the idea of if there's community involvement or churches or scouts or somebody who wants to get involved with helping people before we get involved. Is that worth a discussion at work session? I know it's just a lot of work for us to get to that point. And if there's people out there that want to help somebody that's in need, maybe there could be a discussion topic for that to see if that's viable.
I believe so. Very good. We've had Boy Scouts that were working on their Eagle Scout stuff in for projects that would help them gain that level of being a Boy Scout. Okay. Long-term topics, nothing from the administration, anything from the board. And
No.
again, that's for later in the month. Closing action. Is there any further business to come before the board?
No.
Move for the adoption of motion 23-087 to adjourn the meeting. I need a second.
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes. Hold on, I believe I got to read for the next meeting. Our next work session will be June 15th at 6 PM, Government Services Building. That evening, we will also be swearing in Mr. McGurn as the third trustee. And our next regular business meeting will be July 6th, 2023 at 6 PM. Let me look at my calendar in case there's anything for that meeting that may need to be changed for the holiday. That will fall 2 days after the 4th. Department heads,
That's why I plan
anything?
on swearing 2 people in.
Okay, yes, you're 2 days graduating. That's date good with you, right after July?
I'll be on vacation. I won't be here.
Okay. Everybody good?
Good.
All right, so we'll leave the next meeting as July 6th at 6 PM. Thanks for coming.